There are 5,000 people that need to be fed, and all they have is 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And Yeshua performs this beautiful miracle. He feeds the entire crowd with plenty left over. They were told that they took up 12 baskets. So after he's done preaching and teaching the crowds, he calls his disciples over to him and he says, you know what? I want you to go over before my face. Go over before me across the Sea of Galilee to Bethsaida and wait for me there. At which point he returns to the people. He actually sends the people home and he retreats and begins to pray to his Father. The very next thing that we're told is this. Now, in the 4th watch of the night, Yeshua went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it is a ghost. And they cried out. Now, when you go to the Greek on this, and you look at the Greek word that's used, this krazo that is used, they screamed. You get 12 men together. There's strength in numbers. We become manly all of a sudden. We got 12 of us together. It's very manly. We're not easily intimidated. So if someone were to come walking up to us, provided they're not holding a gun, this is not the situation. Yeshua doesn't have a sword drawn. That would be terrifying. He has no sword drawn, no shield, nothing. All he's doing is he's walking up to them. And we're told that these men are so terrified, 12 men, they're screaming in a boat. They're actually crying out. What does it say? For fear. But immediately Yeshua spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. You know, one thing I think we can be certain of in this situation, the very last thing that the disciples ever imagined or could have conceived was this event. It's inconceivable to them that this is how they were going to run into Yeshua. The very least, Yeshua would have caught up to them in another boat. Remember, this is how they traveled, doing ministry. Yeshua and them in the boat together. They would go together. Or Yeshua would be set out in a boat and he would teach. This was normal. To see this was not normal. This was abnormal. Anything but normal. This is beyond anything that the disciples ever heard of or ever read. Because remember, they grew up, they knew their ancestors. The story of their ancestors is that the mighty hand of the living God came to Egypt, took them out of Egypt, and brought them across on dry ground. He parted the sea. They also knew about Elijah, who went over the Jordan River on dry ground. The Lord parted the sea. Elisha coming back when Elijah ascended. He came over the Jordan on dry ground. The Lord parted the sea. They remember this. They've heard these things, but the thing that they're actually witnessing with their eye, they have never heard of. The Lord did a new thing. He did a brand new thing. I'm going to tell you something. When I go to Scripture and I see the Lord doing new things, it is terrifying. Numbers. Go back to number 16. You had the Korah rebellion. Korah and his men rebelling against Moses, ultimately rebelling against God. Moses comes to him, well, I'm going to tell you something, Korah. The Lord is going to do a new thing. And the earth is going to open up and swallow you. If you die as other men died, know this, the Lord hasn't sent me. Well, what happened? The earth opened its mouth and swallowed these men whole. And the people, how did they respond? A lot like the disciples are responding right now. They're terrified. The people ran for fear. They got out of Dodge, seeing the mighty hand of God. As we continue, we're going to find that the Apostle Peter, he's going to respond to Yeshua. Now, remember, Yeshua said, be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. Well, Peter responds to the statement. And in verse 28, he says, and Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. What now? That sounds crazy. The natural thing, if I was never to show you, you would have never conceived that this is what would come out of any one of the apostles' mouth. The natural thing is for them to see Yeshua and to say, Lord Yeshua, come into the boat and be with us. This is what he should have said. You know, Yeshua, this is how we do it. You come into the boat and we go do ministry. We ride together. This is the normal response. This is not his response. His response is, command me to come to you on the water. You know, when I look at this, I want you to pay so close attention to what is unfolding here. This is the faith. Yeshua's not in the boat. He's in the middle of the sea. Logic and reasoning of Peter's heart tells him, I need to go there. Wherever Yeshua is, that is where I am going. And that is the heart we need to have. No matter what circumstance, I don't care about the laws of nature. Peter doesn't even contemplate the laws of nature, knowing normally he walks out of the boat, he goes to the bottom, he sinks, he drowns. He doesn't care. All he sees, he affixes his eyes on the Lord. And that is where he wants to be. That is powerful. What Peter is doing here is deeply profound. It's spiritual. It's representative of how each and every one of us needs to live our lives. This is how we need to live. An ultimate faith, a faith that's not confined to the laws of nature, a faith that's not intimidated by the circumstances. So how does Yeshua respond to Peter's request to walk on water? Well, as we continue in verse 29. So Yeshua said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Yeshua. Try to wrap your mind around this. Peter's actually walking on water. I mean, can you even imagine? Yeah, it's one thing to see Yeshua walking on the water, but now to have Peter get out of the boat and start walking on the water is insane. It makes me think of John 14. In John 14:12, what does Yeshua say? He actually says, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. Whoever believes in him. He doesn't just say, well, if there's specific men that believe in me. He says, he who believes in me. Women, if you believe in him, we should be doing the works that he did. And this is exactly what we see with Peter. You want to talk about faith? Peter had the faith. He had faith. I want to point out the obvious here. You'll notice no of the apostles got out of the boat. Nobody else got out of the boat. Nobody said, command us to come to you. I mean, you can only imagine what they were probably thinking, looking at Peter, going, what did he say? He said, he's going to go out to them. Peter, we're going to wait right here. We'll stay here. We'll see how this goes down. Nobody else got out of the boat but Peter. I want to tell you something. You want to know why Peter has turned out to this day, and it will be even in the age to come, to be the most influential man that has ever lived on planet Earth? Why the Lord used him to go out and raise the dead? Why people were running just to fall into his shadow to be healed? You want to know why? Don't wonder. This is why. Peter's heart was melted for Yeshua the Messiah. All he cared about was being with him. No matter what the cost, no matter where Yeshua was, it didn't matter. He wanted to go there. This is awesome. You think about this. This is exactly what we are called to. We are called to be Peters. We're called to think about this. We're called to walk on water. Get out of the boat and start walking on water. I want to take this a step further. You notice what Peter says to Yeshua in this passage, how the whole event, really what began this whole event that brought it to fruition. What did Peter say? I'll highlight it. Command me to come to you on the water. See, this is why ultimately Peter walked on water. Yeshua commanded it. And thus, follow it, Peter walked what? He walked in the commandment of God. He was walking in the commandment of Yeshua. And here's my point. When you walk according to the commandments of the Lord, you will walk on water. You will walk according to the Spirit, the power of God, when you are walking in his commandments. Let me take you to James or Yaakov. He understood the power of what I'm telling you. This is what he says in James 1:21. Therefore, lay aside all filthiness and overflow of wickedness and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. Think about this statement for a second. It is so powerful for you to walk in the commandments of God. We are told it will save your soul. It doesn't get more powerful than that. That is walking on water. That is getting out of the boat. That is moving against the laws of nature. The laws of nature tell us that the sinful flesh results in death. The only thing that we have is death. But there's so much power in walking in his righteousness it is able to save the soul. And notice James says, receive the implanted word. A reference to the new covenant, Jeremiah 31. Receive that implanted word. The prophecy was that I will write my Torah on their hearts. They will keep my commandments. They will do them. No longer shall man say to his neighbor, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest.
Hey there, this is Mike at Corner Fringe Ministries. Thanks for watching our video. If you liked the video or it encouraged you, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the share. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. Now, if you want to watch the rest of this video, hit the button here. And if you want to watch the rest of this series, you can check it out here. And don't forget, you can download the Corner Fringe Ministries app today on any of your Play stores. Thanks for joining us at Corner Fringe Ministries.